Appreciate everybody coming. I agree with you. I think sooner or later we're going to need a bigger room, which is a wonderful problem to have. We'll have to talk to Tim and the Radisson, see what other room we can get in and give everybody some room, an efficient room. But I just want to say thank you to the media. Thank you for being here. Thank you for covering our program. And thank you for constantly just being around our kids and spreading the word amongst our community, because if it's not for you, I say this all the time and I really mean it, if it's not for you, nobody knows. You know, the media blasts things out. I mean, unless you're living under a rock, you don't know much about, Western Michigan right now, but you guys do that. And it means a lot to our kids. It means a lot to our culture and our program. And I just want to say thank you very much for that. Talking a little bit about last week, we had a lot of adversity throughout the game, but we're going to get everybody's A-plus game. You look at past week in college football, the number 2 team lost 3, 4, 9, 14, 17. It's hard to win every game. Nobody said it was easy. You're going to get everybody's A-plus game, and you know that going into the game. And you are doing everything you can to play at your A-plus level every single week, but you're still dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids that the girlfriend broke up with them, they failed a test, and they woke up sick, they got a headache. Whatever it is, it can completely change if you're not used to those things, if you're not having the type of philosophy of not letting the circumstance dictate your behavior. I think that's absolutely critical. And you got to give Kent State a lot of credit. They're well coached, one of the best defenses in the league. And then you throw a monsoon on top of that, throw a cold, rainy night, you throw a middle-of-the-week action, and then you throw us turning the ball over in the first play of the game, pick up, fumble, touchdown, and here we go. And that's how the game started for us. So I thought our players did a tremendous job of responding with an incredible response. Same with our coaching staff in the second half. But again, it's being down 14-0. That's just part of our culture, is to not worry about the result. We've got to get better at the process. We've got to continue to take one play at a time. We're going to get people's best shot. We've got to weather some storms. But we got a pretty big storm of ourselves. But I was really proud, and I meant that what I said at the end of the game, that I've never been more proud of this football team, because there was so much on the line, and it was such high stakes, and it was such a tough environment where there's only 800 people in the stands. It was a crazy night. It didn't start right for us. But the way they were able to come back to the culture was inspiring. And there wasn't a better cultural win for us probably in the last year like it was at Kent State. And it's just one win. That's all it is. But with the way they won it, they had to find a way and really dig down deep, and they did that. So a lot of great individual performances. Fabian Johnson, Jarvion Franklin. I thought even Zach, the way that we didn't throw the ball a ton. It was difficult to do that. But him, the way he managed the game, our offensive line. And then when we needed some plays, our defense stepped up and made some big plays, the safety being the play of the game that way. So very proud of that. Very proud to be 1-0 in the Kent State season. But that's behind us. We've had an elite week of practice. Today, beautiful weather. Let's just hope that holds out. Keith Thompson, the Severe Weather Center, says it might not, but that's okay. But I will say that we had an elite week of practice, elite day of practice. I mean, the energy is incredibly high. Our players understand. We educated them about what happened in college football last week, how quick it can be over, and how quick, one time you don't bring your A game, you can get beat. And, all we have to do is keep educating them that, making sure they see it, and being very proactive in our preparation. Buffalo brings in don't look at the record, they bring in a very good football team. Coach Lance is a really good football coach. Obviously at Wisconsin Whitewater, all that tradition, all that history that he built. Outstanding football coach. And they've had a lot of close games. They've lost a lot of key players, but their quarterback is a kid that I absolutely love from Mona Shores High School. Huge kid, and he's a talent all around. The running back is very similar to Jarvion Franklin. They got a really good offensive line, and their defense is playing exceptionally hard. So again, anything can happen. We know that, but we've got to take care of us. The only thing that matters is us, how we prepare, how we play, and how we respond to adversity and success as we keep moving forward. It's a big week here on campus. I'm sure you have a lot of questions, which I want you to ask them. We're going to embrace it. It's a historic week here in Kalamazoo, and this is the vision. This is the vision of what we've talked about for all past Broncos, current Broncos, future Broncos, and our entire city. This is what our city deserves, and I'm very, very proud of them, and I'm so humbled, and I know I speak for our team and our staff. They're very humbled that game day picked us to come to Kalamazoo. We're very, very fortunate, and I promise you this, you're going to have an elite time in Kalamazoo when you're here. So with that, open up for questions.
Coach, you said after you went through the car wash at ESPN that it was nice to talk about Kalamazoo. It was nice to showcase Western Michigan on that stage. to have an opportunity to now have ESPN come to you and showcase the program, what does this mean for the Broncos?
Well, I think there's one thing to talk about it and be in, Bristol, Connecticut, where nobody can experience it. You go, yeah, that's great, that's great. Now they're here where now we get to put our city on show. Right now, it's time to stay in the hotel, stay in the number one Radisson in the entire world, right here in Kalamazoo, to eat at our restaurants, eat at Ken Miller's restaurants, just eat around here, right? It's the ability to be around our beautiful campus, be around our students, visit Lake Michigan if you take a drive out west. Just be around what Southwest Michigan has to offer. And I want people to see what a hidden gem it really is. This isn't just smack dab in the middle of a cornfield and there's nothing to do. There's so much to experience, and I want people to be able to do that and enjoy that. That's why it's so positive for them coming here instead of just talking about it.
Hey, Coach, did the weather affect your game plan at all on both sides of the ball?
Well, the one thing we're very balanced. We're never a one-dimensional football team. We were forced to become one-dimensional, but when both of them are your strengths, it's okay to rely on one if one's not working. It's kind of like the fighter jet thing. You hit the right missile and it doesn't go off, you better have another missile on that ship or on that plane, or it's going to be a long afternoon in the sky. Okay, so that's what we want to always have. And if one's not working or something forces us not to be able to be as effective as we want, we got to be able to run the football in that case. We knew we'd have to run the football very well to beat that football team. That's one of the best front seven in the entire league and two of the best corners. You saw the nickel guy pick up the fumble and take it in for a touchdown. One of the best defenses in our league statistically and with the players they have. And again, I thought our players responded. They did what they had to do to win. And I know everybody was, what happened? What happened? I'm glad we have that expectation now. When you win by 16 points, it's not enough. And everybody's like, what happened? I told you, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with all of you being disappointed.
Coach, you've talked as your undefeated season has gone on and risen, that opponents are giving you completely different looks in the first half than what you've seen on film quite a bit of the time. Can you take us through the process that you guys go through at halftime? I mean, immediately you get in the locker room, and what do you do with your assistants and your players to
Yeah, we have a system we call mark it, right? Mark it. So if our defense sees a play we haven't seen before, mark it. And so what our GAs do is they mark it in the booth, and then we come back, we draw it all up, we game plan against that particular play. You can only have so many plays that you can practice throughout the week. So a lot of times you'll show them most likely in the first half. A lot of things are done in the first drive to set up a lot of things you have for the second drive, right? Everybody pretty much game plans their first 10 to 15 plays, scripted. We're running these first 10 no matter what, because they give us the best chance. That's the time we spend, those 90 hours of, okay, let's put this thing together. But again, that changes. You can come out, and the minute you do that, it's like, whoa, that's not going to work. They change this or that on defense, or hey, on offense, they're doing this, or this scheme's a little bit different, something we haven't seen. Buffalo has a lot of different formations. They'll run the polecat, where there's offensive line way over there, there's a center over here, and a quarterback, and there's wideouts over there, and it's a little bit different, right? So, but that's coaches. You got to find different ways to be able to move the football, and we also see them on special teams. But that's coaching. You got to give a lot of credit to their coaches, but you're going to get everybody's A+ game. If they can throw a wrinkle in here to make us adjust, that's positive because they're giving us time. They're making us spend time adjusting to them instead of making us better, if you know what I mean.
How do your kids accept that, though? I mean, you come in from a challenging half like you did last week, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, here's what we need to do to combat this, that.
Yeah, Corey, I think it goes back to maturity. When doing what you have to do becomes doing what you want to do. Our players come in, whether they played really well or hadn't played very well, they come in, they can't wait for the adjustments because whether we're up by 50 or down by 50, there's going to be adjustments made at halftime. And they come in hungry. Like they have to do that, but they want to do it. They want to adjust. They want to be coached. They want to talk to each other, and they want to solve the issue. I think that's the biggest thing in leadership is that we have a bunch of problem solvers now on our football team. They want to be able to take the problem and solve the problem as a coaching staff and as players.
Coach, the last time College Game Day was at a MAC game, it was in 2003 at Bowling Green.
Yes, Al.
Yeah. And I believe you were wearing the Huskies uniform then. Do you remember then and what that was all about?
Yeah.
And did College Game Day, that's kind of a different animal than the football game itself. Did that play into the game at all?
You know what? To be honest with you, as a player, I use this analogy all the time, and I will say it again because it applies. It's like the homecoming dance, right? Everybody has to go out and buy the dress and get the punch and make the music and hire the DJ, get the streamers, decorate everything. The football team's job is to go win. You rarely see that until you actually get to the dance, right? And then it's like, oh, that's great. How many more hours left do I have, right? It's the exact same thing for the football team. Our job is to get better, practice, bring a sense of pride to the community, bring a sense of pride to our institution, accomplish things that have never been done. But you do that in between the lines. And you do that in the community service. You do that in the academic department, which have nothing to do with necessarily attention in the media, right, that everybody else gets to enjoy. I want this place to be packed. I want to pack the city, period. Forget the stadium. That's a no-brainer. That'll sell out. I'm talking about packing the city. And yes, you might have to go buy your wife a brand new jacket. It's a great excuse to get some warm weather gear, ladies, right? A new hat, right? Come over here to Sydney and buy a new hat and a new jacket. Same thing with guys. Bring your kids. It's a wonderful experience to go see Corso and Herb Street and Dez and Reese Davis and Sam Ponder and everybody, right? See everybody. Bring your kids. That's an experience they'll remember the rest of their life. If you're within a 5-hour radius, get in your car and let's go to Kalamazoo. But again, it's for everybody else, Al. It's for everybody else. The attention is great because it helps us with recruiting, helps us with our program, helps us with the vision as we continue to develop, go forward, helps us with fundraising, helps us with facilities. Yes. But our job is to stay focused on the job at hand, and that's to be 1-0 in the Buffalo season. Period. But it's an exciting time, and I will never ignore it. We're going to embrace it. I'm not going to sit here and say, on to Buffalo. On to Buffalo. On to Buffalo. It is on to Buffalo. But we haven't had things like this, and we're going to embrace that. Maybe one day I will when we have 10 championships or something. But right now, we want to embrace it. We want to educate our players how to handle it, how to experience it themselves, but do it in a very smart way. And how can we handle it to experience it? We're going to take them there Friday night on the bus. Take them over there, drop them off at the set, let them see it. They're going to see it throughout school, throughout the week, but we do it as a football team. And then, then it becomes, I've seen that before, and then we move on.
Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
So, in regards to Saturday, guest kicker and headgear for Corso.
Are you asking me who those are going to be?
Yep,
Well, I don't know that. That's out of my pay scale. Way out of my pay scale. But, I've been asked that question before. Tim Allen, the Toolman Taylor coming back, or, Derek Jeter, Greg Jennings. I've heard it all. Old Spice. I've heard everything. But the cool thing about it, I will say, is we have a lot of options. And who knows? Corso is unpredictable these days. He's unpredictable. So I'm not sure who he'll pick, but that's not necessarily our focus. I know who we're picking and what we have to be able to do to prepare. Great question, though.
Speaking of Buffalo, you mentioned Tyree Jackson. Did you recruit him out of Mona Shores, and what do you think of his game?
I think he's a phenomenal football player. There's nothing he did wrong that we didn't offer. We just already had John Wassink committed, and that was going to be our guy, and that was the guy we went with out of Grand Rapids. So, I'm a big guy on taking one quarterback per year, and really being that our guy, our full commitment into that. I'm big on that. And there was nothing wrong with Tyree. I loved him. He's a phenomenal player, and he's got an incredible ceiling. And he's just a freshman, redshirt freshman, I think it is, right? So, he's got a huge ceiling, and I'm sure he's going to be just fine. And he makes it hard for us because he's big, he's strong, he can run. This isn't just a little shifty quarterback. This is a big guy that can run. So it's going to be a challenge for our defense to make sure he's on the ground.
Coach, I covered quite a bit of John when he was at South Christian. Can you talk about his progression then, as it's related to?
Yeah, I think the greatest thing that Tom Flacco and John Wassink have right now is Zach Terrell. As being able to learn from a guy who's been through it, who's learned from all his failing. He's used failing as growth, not failure as quitting. He's embraced failing, and he's embraced all the experience he's had here in Western Michigan and all the things he's done in the community, all the things he's done in the academic world, all the things he's done in his personal life, and all the things he's done on the football field is absolutely key to be able to learn from, because that's how you do it. He is a standard of what the NCAA and a student athlete is all about. And John Wassink and Tom Flacco get to learn from that man. Now, they're not the same person as Zach Terrell, right? They're not the same quarterback as Zach Terrell. I don't want them to be the same. But you have a prototypical, right, mannequin of exactly what the NCAA is all about and what is elite about the NCAA. Everything elite about the NCAA is Zach Terrell. And you get to learn from that. Everything elite about being a quarterback is in Zach Terrell. Everything being elite about being a community server and giver is Zach Terrell. Everything right about row the boat is Zach Terrell. It's amazing. And they get to learn from that. So their development is progressing the way we want it to. The only thing that's missing is game time experience. But again, when you got one of the best quarterbacks in the country, it's hard to pull him off the field.
There's a big disparity in the polls this week. Writers seem to embrace you a little bit more than the coaches. Why do you think that is? There's kind of that group of three lost teams, familiar faces, LSU, Florida State, USC, a couple others, that they seem to kind of have a problem placing you, where to place you in amongst that group.
We'll be placed where we're placed. We know that our poll's the only one that matters. How we change our best on a daily basis. Where are we today? Numbers, ceilings will never be placed on this football program, ever, ever. No one will ever be able to tell us where we are. We are us. That's all that matters. We said that when we were 1-11. We say that now. We are us. So I respect where we're at. I enjoy where we're at. I enjoy the national attention. But on the other hand, we are us. And no one's going to be able to say, you are this and you can't do this or you can't become that, whether it's in our personal life or social life, football life, spiritual life. We are us. The sky's the limit. But I will say that, if you're in a Power 5 school and you're a coach, you're probably not voting much for the group of 5. I mean, there's a lot of politics that go involved in that, right? I mean, if you're a true Democrat, even if you probably don't like the candidate, you're probably voting Democrat, right? I mean, it's just one of those things that's kind of political about our society, and that's okay. I don't blame anybody. I don't blame anybody either. Whatever they are going to be able to do to be able to move themselves up, perfect. That's what they got to position themselves, because every slot is worth more and more and more money, more and more and more attention. So I don't blame them. But again, we're not going to let that label how good we can be or where we can actually go. Great question, though.
Coach, you talked about how Tyree Jackson can run the ball. Nick Holley had a pretty good game running last week, although it was one-dimensional sort of situations. How are you going to stop Jackson from running all over the defense?
Well, first of all, they're completely two different offenses, okay? You got to give Kent State a lot of credit. They have rebuilt their entire offense around Holley, right? And really have done a lot of things that are kind of optionish, triple optionish, which if you have one guy miss a tackle, it's over. This is a little bit different of an offense. He's really good on the run, but we have to tackle way better. We've got to be able to wrap up better, and we've got to play a little bit more aggressive. I think Holley, with the way how shifty he really was, forced us to play in like this little phone booth, and he jumped around us. He's a dynamic player. I think one of the best players we faced the entire year on an individual level. But Tyree's going to present a lot of challenges. He's big, he's fast. We got to be able to wrap up. He's strong, so we've got to be able to bring him to the ground, and we got to swarm. We got to have a suffocating type defense.
Coach, I was looking through the game notes, and there's a thing here on the top 5 offensive line units in the country. You're 4, Alabama's 3. There's 2 undefeated teams in the country. You're 1, Alabama's the other. You have the second longest win streak in the country behind Alabama. No one's comparing you to Alabama, except maybe Al. But
Definitely Al.
That being said, you're actually in the sentence with Alabama. And coming from 1-11 4 years ago, that's just something that's honestly hard for us to wrap our minds around. What does that mean to you?
Well, again, I think it goes back to, first of all, our offensive line being ranked, it goes back to a number. The number doesn't mean much. I know this. I know Kirk Sherrock is the best offensive coordinator in the country, and Brian Callahan's the best offensive line coach in the country, period. I know that because I'm around those guys. And it's not just their play calling. It's not their development of players. It's what they've been through in their life. It's the adversity those coaches have faced, and watching them go through that from our past years and watching them come out on the other side as grown men and making tough decisions and really tough times and doing all the right things. That's why our offensive line's having a ton of success, because they play so well cohesively. And they all have each other's backs, and they trust each other, and they love playing beside each other. That's what offensive line play is all about. Alabama's bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic, whatever. But offensive line is about how well do you run your system and how well do you do what you do and how cohesive do you play. And I don't think there's any better coaches in the country than Kirk Sherrock and Brian Callahan at making that all work. And then our running backs get a ton of credit. But when you have, we're still pretty young on the offensive line. We lose 2 seniors, but we still got a pretty young group. And the guys behind them I feel very confident about for the next few years with the Zach Novoselskis and the Curtis Doyles. But the rankings don't necessarily matter. But when you put us in different type of brackets of names that are brands, that was the vision, Andy. That's what we talked about, when we were in here in the press conference. We become a national brand. We will have expectation and we will have pressure. Well, sitting here today on November 14th, 15th, we have all of it, right? And it only creates more pressure, more expectation, right? More national brand. And that's okay. I told you before, if they ever fire me here because they just don't win enough, we've done something pretty well. If 9-10 ain't enough one day, they did my job, right?
If you're not letting outside opinion kind of pigeonhole you into where you are, do you kind of Do you ever look at it internally and think, this is where we really belong? The coaches think there are 20 teams in the nation better than you.
Well, yeah, I mean, we embrace everything, right? I mean, we are very real with our program. We're very real with our players. We talk about where we're ranked. We talk about, yes, you are 10-0, because you're not just 1-0. We want a 1-0 season, period. But you're still 10-0. There's 10 games of knowledge, growth, learning environment, so many things we can learn from that we've gathered, and we found a way to win. That's an incredible resource to use in the next game. When game day was coming, we celebrated it. When we're ranked, we celebrated it. When we move up in the polls or stay the same or go down, doesn't matter, we celebrate it. Because it's my job to educate these young men on how to handle success. You know, when you haven't handled or had a ton of success like this, it's very easy to become part of human nature. We have to fight human nature as just a football team every single day. Complacency, right? Relaxing, listening to the outside sources, being patted on the back. Different than 1-11. There was a new set of worst team ever in the history of Western Michigan. Most losses ever. There was a new teaching of how to handle that. The first-class way, the right way. Now there's a new teaching of how to handle this in a first-class way, the right way, the new way. And there's constant education. So whether we're up in the polls, down in the polls, teams ahead of us, we're always, I promise you this, if we're ever ranked higher than we are right now, we are still going to have a massive crack on our shoulder. And I promise everybody this, I am going to find a way to create an edge. I'm going to find a way to make sure our guys think we got snubbed. That's just who I am. I'm the king of the twos, the snub king. I can find a way to spin it all back to our players and say, this is the way they think of you. If that's what you want, great. If not, go prove it. But that's who I am. That's the way I'm designed. And I don't know what it's like to be 6'4" and 210 and run a 4.240 and be a first-round draft pick. I have no idea what gift that's like. But when you have a gift of a heart and gift of a soul and gift of a spirit like our players do, that's powerful. Powerful.
Speaking of spinning things, Coach, we've talked earlier in the season about the bye week or lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it was kind of a conspiracy that the MAC had against Western Michigan University to not give us a bye week.
You said that. I didn't.
Yeah, I said that, yeah. At any rate, can you talk about what this additional 3 or 4 days of healing and getting back to classes and?
Yeah, everybody always says, well, how do you handle that? I let them get away. I'll be honest with you. We wanted to practice after 2 days. I said, let them take a few 3.5 days off. You know, they had to be into lift, and they had like a little bit of an indie to do with the weight room staff. But it's been a long season already. You know, we're talking going into 15 total week, and these are still 18 to 22-year-old men. Then throw the pressure and the expectation. Then throw the physicality and the emotional strain, and all those things, right? And if you don't know why you're playing or what you're playing for, and you forget about that, you're going to lose your edge. You know, our players went home. Our players went back. Our players went to see their family. Our players went back to watch their sister play soccer or, you know, things like that. And our staff got away a little bit too. But again, when we come back, we go. You know, we go. When we rest, we rest. There's nobody better at resting than us when we rest. Just not often.
Did you see the fruits of that time off
Oh, yeah.
when they came back?
Oh, I tell you what, Sunday night practice was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it was probably the fastest, most energetic practice we've had all season. And it was under the lights. It was at night. And I tell you what, our coaches were fired up. Our players were fired up. Even today's practice, it was just exactly the way it should be. And that's what you want. You want it to again, you've got to find curious ways to be able to stem that curiosity again. You got to be able to stem that energy and that emotional commitment back. Because there's 3 fires, guys. There's a physical, mental, and an emotional fire. And all 3 of those fires on game day got to be burning at the exact same time and the exact same height. And the hottest part of a flame is on the tip. That's the white part of the flame at the top. A lot of people don't even see it, right? But that's where our 3 fires have to burn. And if 2 are here and 1's down here, you got a problem. We have got to make sure all of those, for an 18 to 22-year-old young man, is burning. These kids got a lot to think about these days, a lot going on. There's a lot can go wrong the minute they walk out of our facility. So that's why I love practicing in the morning, because we can set the tone and teach them how to respond to those things. Yep, go ahead. You're all right. Go ahead.
You know, this has been.
Berline doesn't want the press.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will keep this.
He doesn't want the coverage anymore. He's cut it off. We'll keep going.
I'll keep this fast.
No, you're
You're fine. Just talk about again the enormity of having ESPN College Game Day here on Saturday. Just because You know, this year's been
Yeah.
quite the year for Kalamazoo, starting off with the shootings in February. Now, you know, we're getting this national recognition for something awesome that you've helped put together.
I think-
Just talk about that.
I think you've mentioned it. You know, the shootings, yeah, obviously, very, very close and deep to our community. I think it touched everyone's lives. The bicycle accident, I think that touched a lot of people's lives. I can go on and on about this whole year and how tough it's been on Kalamazoo. This is historic. This is what's phenomenal about sports. It brings people together. It gives people a release. It gives people a chance to believe in something bigger than just yourself. And it doesn't have to be spiritual. It can be a football team made up of 18 to 22-year-old young men that you come out to be fans of, and you want to row the boat because of their culture. Their culture might have saved your life. Their culture and that pink oar might help you beat breast cancer. That yellow one, when you got home in town here in Kalamazoo, when you saw that the troops come home, that might have helped you recover, you know, from all the things you saw at war. Whatever it is, it's way bigger than just game day coming. It's the number one brand in sports is coming to spend the entire week in Kalamazoo. Not even just Western Michigan. Kalamazoo residents, Matawan, Portage, Battle Creek, I can go on and on, the state of Michigan. It is historic. And even if you're not a football fan, come out to Kalamazoo on Friday and Saturday and just watch your experience. Just engulf your experience. Trust your experience and just watch what it'll do for your life. Engulf yourself in our program. Watch our kids play. Rain or shine, snow, sleet, wind, it doesn't matter. Bundle up because it's going to be historic. And it is historic. It's historic for all of us. And this is what's awesome about this community. The philanthropy, the giving, the serving, the belief in one another. This is why I took the job right here. And it's amazing 4 years of led up to here. And this isn't the end all be all. But guys, this is for you. This is for you. This is not for PJ Fleck. This is for you. That's what's cool about this. And our players would say the same thing. This is for you. We'll have our memories later on. This is for you to believe in something way bigger than just yourself. Come out to Kalamazoo. It's going to be historic. Row the boat. Game day's coming.